good power foods for people to think about, you know, to keep them stocked up on energy?
Sure. So, what you want to do is send a steady stream of glucose to your brain.
Yeah.
If you eat, high fructose corn syrup, sugary, fatty foods, it's going to send a lot of glucose to your brain
Right.
immediately, and then you're going to crash. So the goal is really is there's a whole bunch of individual foods that are the absolute best, but
Yeah.
as a general rule of thumb, just any food that looks like actual food.
That's a good
So
one.
the less that it's processed, the better it is for your long-term willpower.
Right. So more natural, like, so lower glycemic foods like almonds,
Yes.
maybe stuff like
Almonds are great.
yeah, almond butter.
Uh,
Any other ideas for
yeah,
foods?
so meats,
Yeah.
any lean meats, vegetables. Basically, every vegetable is good, but especially root vegetables.
Yeah.
So sweet potatoes, carrots, stuff like that. Also fruits. Try to stay away from as sugary as possible, but
Right.
as long as they have a lot of fiber in them, then those are going to be good for you as well. Um, but yeah, essentially the food that has gone through the least processing
Yeah.
because that's less likely to have high fructose corn syrup, which will lead to that spiking crash effect.
Yeah. So I guess that means we shouldn't be having our sugary coffee with a big donut in the morning.
I mean, that's what's going to lead to the 2:30 feeling, but
Yeah, with it.
it's probably not going to be the best thing for your willpower.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've seen I've played this play with this myself, and this is the idea of intermittent fasting, and just becoming more fatty adapted, or fat adapted, so to be able to harness more ketones to use that as brain fuel.
Sure.
Have you played with that at all, or done any research
So
around
I
that kind of
haven't
stuff?
I haven't done any intermittent fasting myself.
Yeah.
It's strictly just been because I haven't wanted to not have a steady stream of glucose at all times
Yeah.
for myself. I'm sure there's points where you're hungry throughout the day. Um, I don't know for sure. I
Yeah.
can't really touch on it too much, but when you're hungry, that's when your body's telling you that you're low on willpower and you're less likely to eat other stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have a different experience, I'd love to know about it.
Well, I certainly think for some people it can be quite a challenge, especially if you're not a person who's used to doing any fasting. But obviously, if you try it, you certainly want to be under some supervision or follow a pretty legitimate program, because for
Sure.
the first month you certainly feel as you go through that kind of carb flu stage that most people talk about.
Sure.
You feel terrible. There's
Yeah.
there's no getting around that. You really feel terrible.
Yeah,
But
I
one,
switched to the paleo diet at one point, and oh man, it was hard.
yeah, and so this is even like more intense if you go for the
Yeah.
full nutritional ketosis effect, where you really sticking to under 30 grams of carbohydrate a day. Then it takes a while to shift from being kind of a sugar burner to a fat burner.
Yep.
And that first month is pretty rough. So if you do want to try that, people out there, then reduce your trading. Let's just say it that way. Don't try to trade heavy on days where you're struggling with getting enough glucose to your brain, because
Yeah.
it's not a fun experience.
Increase your sleep during those days.
Ah, good point. Yeah, increase your
Yeah.
sleep. But then once you get that, usually 3-4 weeks, depending on what type of conditioning you're in, then you make that kind of switch into burning ketones as a fuel source for your brain, and your brain lights up. Your brain really loves that stuff, and I found myself feeling really, really good for long periods of time without having to eat without you haven't eat very often, because you're eating
Sure.
a lot of fat. But I think it's an interesting experiment for a lot of people. And I've had other guests talk about reducing the amount of sugar in their diets and the kind of the benefits of some of that. So I thought
Sure.
that'd be an interesting discussion. But at the end of the day, it's all about feeding the brain, right? Like ultimately, the brain is that organ that's gonna make all of our decisions. So what else can we do to maybe boost our willpower? Is there any other things we can do? You mentioned like meditation. Any other exercises or practices?
Sure. So right now, I'm in a bit of a challenge myself. I'm in the last 8 days of running a Kickstarter campaign, and I need to really push hard at the finish right now. And the way I see it is that, over the next 8 days, I'm gonna want to put as much time and effort into this thing as I possibly can, which means that I'm going to be cutting back on the normal amount of sleep that I get. But the good thing is that sleep isn't the only thing that fuels your willpower. There's also meditation. Meditation has been proven to basically 10 minutes of meditating if you do it properly, and it's not necessarily a long-term solution, but if you do 10 minutes of meditation, that's going to make up for an hour's worth of sleep. The reason why you do that, it does that is because meditation is one of the few times when your brain is absolutely quiet. And even when you're sleeping, your subconscious is moving along, and it's working and growing and everything like that. Whereas during meditation, your brain is completely off.
Right.
So you get a little bit more extra rest from that.
Yeah. And so have you tried something like heart rate variability? I know that's Kelly McGonigal talks about that in her book that we mentioned earlier. Have you played with that technology?
So I haven't worked with any of the technologies that they have to increase it, but just certain things, your heart rate variability goes down, therefore your willpower goes down.
Right.
When you are in situations where you're completely tempted. A story that I love to use for this is when, or I have a big love of the muffins at Starbucks. I don't know why it is. I just, for whatever reason, that's like my one vice. And so I was going along with my friend the other day, and we were in line, and I was looking at the muffin. I was kind of low on willpower at that point because it was near the end of the day. It was like 3:00, and I was like, I need to get this muffin. But no, I can't get this muffin because I said that I wasn't going to eat any baked goods during this month, etc. And that inner debate that you usually have.
Yeah.
And there's a really good technique for dealing with that inner debate where you really, really want it. Your short-term side really, really wants something, and your long-term side is debating it, saying, no, don't get it.
Yeah.
And that is actually called positive procrastination.
Okay.
And positive procrastination is just me saying that if I really, really want this muffin, I can get it on the way out. But for now, I'm just going to put off the decision until I leave Starbucks. And what that will do is increase your heart rate variability again. It will give you a quick boost of willpower. And pretty much after those 10 minutes are over, and I spent the time at Starbucks, I was like, okay, I don't really need this muffin.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Why do you think that works? That's a fascinating one. I know it makes sense to me. Like, I've tried that myself, not in that exact, intention, but I've certainly done things like that where I had that same outcome. Why is that? Why does that work?
Sure. So when you first lay eyes on that thing that you really want, in my case, the muffin, your brain releases dopamine. It's the reward center of the brain. It's a chemical that basically told our ancestors, like, there's a gazelle in the distance, and whatever you do, you need to hunt down that gazelle right now.
Right.
It gave us the motivation to get out there and try to get it when we were starving and weak, and we needed that gazelle to survive.
Yeah.
So in today's society, we don't really need that muffin as much as they needed the gazelle. So it releases dopamine for us to think that this muffin is the most desiring thing in the world. We want it more than anything that we could possibly ever want ever again. But as soon as you say, I'm going to put the decision off for 10 minutes, your brain is able to release or clear itself of that dopamine. And so the decision, or you just lose all of the stress. And by the time the 10 minutes are up, your brain is clear of dopamine. You don't want it as much.
And then, so there's a less likelihood you're actually going to want it after that time. So when you leave, you're like, oh, I don't even want it anymore.
Exactly.
Huh.
So you could apply this to say you want to make an impulse purchase.
Yeah.
If you can will yourself to hold off on the fancy car for a day, all of a sudden it doesn't seem quite as desirable anymore.
Tempting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. I'll have to play with that idea. I wonder where else I can apply that. That's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's, baked inside that is kind of that next action loop, right? Where you're like,
yes.
okay, yeah, I already know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wait till I'm gonna leave this place before I make the next decision. So you're kind of not leaving that open-ended question out there. That is a neat one. Yeah. So let's backtrack a second. So you mentioned your Kickstarter campaign. Tell us a little more about that one.
Sure. So, like I said, basically I've been researching what separates the greats from the people who tried just as hard, they worked just as hard, they were just as passionate, but didn't make it. And I've came to the conclusion that it was willpower, both to do the boring things that you don't want to do, also get up every single day and do it with great consistency, and also push your comfort zone on a regular basis beyond what you or others are willing to do. And so what I did is I studied 12 different people across various domains, all coming from very different backgrounds, different time periods. So we have Mozart, we have Kobe Bryant, we have Temple Grandin, who is one of the most famous people who overcame autism in her life and was able to actually become one of the greatest innovators in her field. Her story is incredibly interesting. J.K. Rowling, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs. So I studied all of these people to see how they used their willpower to reach the level of success that they did. And then I just tied the scientific concepts we've been talking about today into each one of their stories, and then put them in practical terms to help people use the exact same strategies that they did to achieve whatever greatness they sought. And so after 5 years or so of various research and writing, finally put it into a full-length book, and I'm just running a Kickstarter so that I can publish, print it, get it edited professionally, etc.
And how many days left do you have left on your Kickstarter?
So I have eight left, and just making a strong push to the finish. And it's a great opportunity for me because here I am saying that the concept in this book will help you overcome whatever challenge you're facing. And so here I am with a huge challenge myself, and I have the ability to prove that these concepts can actually help you overcome challenges that I write about.
Beautiful. So kind of walking the talk, talking the talk, and walking the walk.
Exactly.
Very nice. And so what do you think about, what can we draw on from some of those stories of some of the people you researched? Like, is willpower one of those things where is it something we're born with? We kind of talked about it already, but do you think that some of these people just had stronger willpower than other folks? Or do you think that they intentionally, or maybe purposely or not purposely, somehow built up that willpower to just perform at such a high level?
So I would say the underlying thing that all these people had in common was they were not born with remarkable willpower, but they did find and embrace their purpose. And so they found the thing that they want to do more than anything else in the world. And whether that was because they were just really, really good at it, or they just had a really big passion for it, or they thought that it was going to be the thing that they could really make a dent in. And because they had that passion for whatever their purpose might have been, they had the will, or they were able to develop the willpower throughout their lives to continue to pursue it against opposition, challenges, etc., to reach the level of greatness that they did. So they weren't born with the willpower, but what they did was embrace their purpose.
Yeah. And so that kind of fueled their desire to keep on the journey.
Exactly. Yeah. And through that whole journey, at each step, they were strengthening their willpower throughout, and eventually reached their destination.
And in terms of the purpose, is that something that, just based on those stories, is it a purpose that they found? Like, is it a passion that they found, or did the passion or purpose find them? Because sometimes, it happens the other way around as well, right?
Sure, yeah. It's the story really varies. So you look at Mozart, and at the age of 1, basically, he was already listening to his father teach his sister how to play the piano, and his father was teaching all these other kids that just filled the Mozart home with playing the piano. So obviously that led to him growing up, even as a kid or as like a little toddler, and wanting to be a part of music. So obviously he didn't bring that upon himself, but he did, he did start practicing at the age of 4, and he did have a remarkable ability to keep at it. So in that case, it kind of found him. But in the case of Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was in this poor Austrian village, and before he had the idea that he wanted to be a bodybuilding champion or a movie star or governor, uh, he had the idea that I need to get out of here. I want something more than just to follow in my father's footsteps and become a police officer. And so he began to search for a purpose. And eventually, he came across an article on a man named Reg Park, who was the current Mr. Universe.
Right.
And it was about how Mr. Universe became Hercules. So he said that once he read that magazine article, the whole plan was laid out. He was going to become a bodybuilding champion and a huge movie star. And so it was because he had the openness to find the plan that he was able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading that in Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography, and yeah, he talks about like he always knew he wanted to move to America, right? He was going to move to America and become this big movie star, bodybuilder, the rest of it. So it's an amazing story, and that's also a great book. So I guess, is that where you begin then? So you want to really be aligned with your purpose and passion? That's the place to start from if you want to get exceptional results?
Yeah, I'd say so. I would say opening yourself up to the search. You know, you might not know exactly what your purpose or desire or the thing that you are really willing to fight for, that you're willing to go through all the pain in order to get it. You might not know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But by opening yourself up to the search, you know, there was probably thousands and thousands of kids who read that exact same article as Arnold Schwarzenegger did, but they didn't see it as, oh my God, this is the exact path to, you know, becoming a huge success in life.
Yeah.
They just saw it as an article.
Right.
But because his mind was open to the search, he was able to see it more than that.
That's fascinating, and this also, you know, ties back to that, you know, the popular marshmallow experiment, right? Where it's
Sure.
you know, the marshmallow experiment. Maybe you can just share what that experiment is, but the results of that is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So the marshmallow test was a test conducted in 1970. And basically, they brought kids in that were 4 years old and put a marshmallow on a plate in front of them. And then the experimenter said if they could eat the marshmallow right now, but if they could wait just 15 minutes, they would get a second marshmallow. So basically, they were just trying to see, you know, at what age are kids able to understand the benefits of delaying gratification. And only about 1/3 of the kids who were able to hold out for the second marshmallow, compared to 6-year-olds who it was about 1/2 that were able to hold out for the second marshmallow. So that was, you know, they figured, experiment done. We figured out that at the age of 6, kids start figuring it out better, and as they age, I'm sure they'll be able to figure it out better, even more than that.
Right.
But then they decided to do follow-up studies on the kids from the marshmallow test.
Yeah.
So they were able to see, you know, when they became, you know, elementary school kids, that they were more well-behaved, or the kids that could hold out for the second marshmallow were more well-behaved. When they became adolescents, they got better grades than the other kids.
Yeah.
You know, when they graduated from high school and went to better universities. And then when they went to the real world, they got better jobs. I believe they made about $23,000 per year more or something like that. And now, continuing studies that they're doing on them today, they report much more happiness, much more success, and much more health in their lives.
Right.
So just that one thing, the ability to delay gratification as a 4-year-old, was a better measure of life success than the things that we usually think about, like IQ or family income or neighborhood that you grew up in or any of that stuff.
Yeah. And so I think it just boils back to like, okay, so how do we strengthen our willpower as we go through life, right? It just sounds like, you know, the takeaway there is like we want to be just continuously just kind of thinking, okay, well, where can I stretch a bit here? Where can I begin to develop my levels of self-control and self-discipline? Now, do you believe those are interchangeable, self-control and self-discipline, or do you have any ideas around the use of those two terms?
So self-control and willpower are essentially the same thing.
Okay.
I like to think of discipline as mostly about I won't power. It's more about holding back from doing the things that you know are not good for your long term.
Yeah.
It's less discipline to say will yourself to push past your comfort zone,
Right.
and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. So any other tips or practices we can use to strengthen our willpower? I know we've talked about a few already around different, exercises we can do. Is there, is it a practice we can just continue on, or we should try to look for in our life where we can kind of lean into things? Or do you have any other ideas around how we can just be in that kind of virtuous loop of just continually stretching our willpower muscles?
Sure. So the number one practice that you can do for your willpower is meditation. Just 10 minutes per day. It has remarkable effects, and it lowers your stress. It increases your heart rate variability, and it gives you the ability to focus your attention on the things that matter.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone knows what meditation is here, but essentially meditation is just the practice of bringing your thoughts to the present. Usually our mind is wandering to the past, thinking about things that we could have done better, or it's thinking about or planning for the future and how we can either set ourselves up for success in the future, or more likely worrying about what might happen.
Right.
So meditation is simply sitting down by yourself in a room, it being quiet, setting a timer for 10 minutes, and just focusing on inhale and exhale. And most people realize when they do that that it's extremely boring.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah. So your thoughts wander right away to everything else in your to-do list. But the more that you can just bring it back to inhale and exhale, the stronger your willpower becomes, because now you're not thinking about when you get to the office, you're not thinking about those donuts and coffee that you're trying to resist anymore, because you have more control of your thoughts.
Yeah. I certainly am a big advocate of meditation, and for the folks who may be new to the practice, I actually have a 28-day meditation challenge for traders on the website. So
that's great.
Yeah, check it out if you're a trader and you're interested in meditation. Colin, any other advice in terms of strengthening your willpower muscles?
Sure. The last piece of advice, and it's probably, besides meditation, the most important thing that not enough people do right, and that's maintaining the proper perspective.
Nice one.
Just thinking about getting out of bed and going to the gym in the morning as an opportunity rather than an obligation.
Right.
You get to go to the gym to work on your health so you can be more fit and healthy down the road, live more years, etc. It's an opportunity for you to do that, not an obligation.
Yeah.
And along the same lines, you can do that super easily by simply changing I have to go to the gym to I get to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Just mentally rehearsing I get to rather than I have to with any of your I willpower challenges. That'll go a long way. And then for I won't power challenges, a great way you can change your perspective is rather than saying I can't do this, so I can't stay up late partying, or I can't I can't eat this tempting food, whatever it is.
That feels so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're saying the message you're sending yourself is that I really would want to do this, but I can't do it because I'm on a diet, or I promised I wouldn't, or whatever.
Yeah.
You can easily change that by saying I don't. I don't eat cookies. I don't party late. I don't drink more than 3 beers. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever your challenge is, switching it to I don't, you start to identify yourself and see things as from the perspective of someone who is healthy, who and just doesn't do those types of things.
Yeah. I like that one a lot. Just kind of reminds me of that other reframe where you're, instead of saying, if you're a smoker, instead of saying, I'm a non-smoker, you simply say, I'm an athlete. I don't smoke cigarettes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. The more you reinforce that message to yourself, the more you become that person.
Yeah. Well said. So I know we're running close to the end of our time. So Colin, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your Kickstarter? I know you only have a few days left. So tell us a little more about that. And then tell us again, what's the best place that people can stay in contact with you, follow you? Where can people, just keep the communication going?
Sure. So you'll find basically everything that I talked about today at willpower.co. I'll send you over the link to the site.
Sure.
There's a whole bunch of free resources on there for you guys to learn exactly, an actual meditation practice, the very best foods for willpower.
Nice.
10 exercises that you can actually do to strengthen it. You can find the ones that will actually work for you. And then as far as the Kickstarter goes, I'll be sending that link to you as well, Houston.
Yeah.
We're running it for another 8 days. We're nearing our goal right now, and it's really exciting. We're really close to getting the book published. And if you want to, you can get a pre-order on there, or you can get some other really awesome rewards as well.
Cool. Thank you, man. It sounds like a fascinating work, and I definitely support it. So before we end today's call, I'm just going to ask the audience a question that I usually like to ask. So what was your big takeaway from today's episode? What was the one really big idea that captured your attention and your imagination? Let us know. Go to the show page. As usual, you can find the show notes, the transcript, and all the resources that Colin and I mentioned today on the show page, and that's at thetradingedge.org/episode 18. So Colin, thank you so much for your time, man. Best of luck on the remaining days of your Kickstarter.
Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye now.
You've been listening to the Trading Edges podcast. We've taken this interview and summarized all the big ideas so that you can take action. Just head over to thetradingedge.org/podcast to find the show notes, transcript, resources, and to continue the conversation.